Hey guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm going to be making another fun card using the One Light from Pearblossom Press. And I've got some new products that just came out from Spellbinders. They're on the website, but I don't actually know if they're up for sale yet. So be sure to check out my link down below to see if you can get these goodies. Now, this is not new. This is my BetterPress ink. I'm going to be using some of that. We've also got the scalloped and stitched edge ovals. These are really pretty. This is the Splatters BetterPress set. And the butterfly silhouettes. This is kind of the reason I'm doing this, because this is just so lovely and I've got an idea. Let's see if it works. So let's go ahead and get started. So these BetterPress plates, and yeah, I think it's all BetterPress. Anyway, all the BetterPress and dies. These are from the new, let me look again, make sure I say this one right, Wildflowers collection by Lisa Horton and Spellbinders. Now the butterflies here are their BetterPress. So I've got my BetterPress system out. If you want more information on how to use this, I'm going to go pretty quick. But if you want more information about that, be sure to check out the other videos that are on my channel. This is also one that has got basically a layering way that you can do it. So there is a registration here. Now, because these are metal, we can't see through everything to be able to do stamping like we would with our clear stamps. So instead, they've given us this little guide that's going to help. What I'm going to do with it is I'm going to place it down onto my chase here. It is a magnetic chase. It's going to hold onto my place. I'm going to tape this down right over the A2 section, so then I've got a guide to make sure that I line these things up right. I've also got a piece of plastic over the magnetic platform there just to help me keep everything cleaned up. So if you're wondering about that, that's the way that's going to work. This here is a piece of BetterPress paper. It is a cotton panel. It is nice and smooth, and it's got the loveliest cotton texture. I love the feel of this. It's going to allow for us to get a better imprint on our BetterPress. So BetterPress is basically an easy way to do letterpress. And all I'm doing here right now is just taping my paper down onto the platen. So the way that the BetterPress system works, just real quick, we've got a magnetic platform here. We're going to put our plates on top. Then these pieces are little magnetic bits that have a spring in there, so that when we put this down on top, it's not going to touch the ink. We're going to run this through our die cutting machine, and that's going to press them together to give us a perfect printing. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces, the solids, and place right over where it has that image. Okay, I'm going to do that with both butterflies. And then I'm going to ink them up. Now, one thing that happens sometimes while you're inking is sometimes you shift things around. That is totally fine. Because if you do, let's see, I want to go with, kind of want to go with yellow and orange again. I love this look. So I'm going to, sometimes if you do that, it's fine. You can always reposition things. I have got a magnet. I have got my tweezers. I've got my pokey tool. I've used all of the above to do this. So right now I'm basically just inking up that center area. Then I'm going to come in, and I'm starting off with yellow because why? We don't really want too much contamination, right? We don't want to cross-contaminate when we do blending, and that's kind of what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take some archival ink that is Monarch Orange and come in from the edges. Okay. Do the same thing on the other one. And I actually have not been moving that BetterPress plate around, which is kind of nice because usually it moves. Okay, so that is pretty much it for that. I do want to take, I don't have a blending brush specifically for these, but I do have some cosmetic sponges. So I'm going to take a new one of those and just kind of counts right there in between the two colors to try to soften those lines a little bit. just like you would with your blending brush. And I think I actually need a little bit more of the orange, so I'm going to do that a little bit more, darken it up a little bit more on those tips of the wings. This is an experiment, guys. I haven't done this quite like this before. So, and I'm going to just blend them out just a touch more. I don't want to remove too much of the ink because I do still want it to press well. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. Make sure it is covering our images. And then we're going to run that through our Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And let's see how that blending experiment did. Oh, that looks gorgeous. I am very happy with the way that that turned out. So now I need to clean these up and we're going to switch to a second plate. Actually, have another idea for doing the second plate. So I'm going to take out my Glimmer machine. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. And I'm just using the die that comes with the set and my magnetic magic mat to help it hold in place. Mine is a bit warped because I use it way too much, and unfortunately you can't really flatten them back out. I have heard something about running it under hot water, so I'm going to give that one a try. Someone mentioned in one of my streams that that's what they had been told from from scrapbook.com, but I had asked someone at scrapbook.com that as well, and they said that you can't really flatten it back out. It's still going to work fine though. What you need to do though is try to use the other side more often than what I do. Okay, so that should have held them in place pretty well so that we got a pretty much perfect die cutting. Love that. That's what the magnetic surface is for. Okay, so here's my plan. We're going to see how it does. I've got a piece of vellum. This is just some vellum I got from Michael's. I would recommend if you are going to do any kind of foiling, you may want to get better quality vellum than this because we are going to get it hot, and vellum is a plastic, so there's always a chance that it will melt. And we don't want that to happen. But anyhow, it does sometimes warp. These are going to be die cut out, so I don't really think that's going to be too much of a problem. They're small enough images, but we're going to give this one a shot. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to put my butterflies on my Glimmer system. I've got it turned on. It's already had time to turn on, heat up, and then shut itself back down. I'm also using a polished brass foil from Spellbinders. I'm going to go ahead and put both of these guys down and let them have a chance to start absorbing some of that heat from this platform. Okay. And I've got some tick marks that I added to mine. You can do what you want, but I've got some Sharpie marks on here to let me know where A2 size is so that when I lay any kind of card down, I know it's going to fit. Let's move that in just a little bit more. Okay, this should be about fine. I've got them kind of centered, so it is going to be in line with that vellum. Now I'm going to, while that is heating up, let's go ahead and add our thin shim on top just to hold in some of that heat. I'm going to tape my foil down onto my vellum. This is going to help me to keep everything lined up and not lose it all. Sometimes my foil likes to kind of float around because I have air conditioning on all the time. And this is just going to help me keep it in place. I do want to make sure that this is not the area that gets foiled. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put them on the corners. That's going to be a smarter placement for that tape. Just like we did with the BetterPress, right? So I'm going to tape it on at the corner because that part is not going to be foiled at all. We grab another piece of tape and do the same thing on the other corner. And again, that's just kind of help it stay in place. Okay, this says it's ready. So I'm going to take my thin shim off, We're going to place our foil down. And whenever you're doing foiling with a hot foil machine, you want to do shiny side down. With any foil, you want the matte side to be touching your cardstock or whatever substrate you're putting on. So I'm going to place it down right like that. Right where my marks are. We're going to put the thin shim down. We're going to put the spacer pad down. And then we're going to hit the timer. Once the timer goes off, we're going to run this through our die cutting machine. It should have had time to heat up those plates without overheating our vellum. Okay, this says it's ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and run that through. And let's see how that does with that foil. Okay, just looking at it, I can see that we got a good impression. And the vellum is a little bit warped, but not bad. Let's let that cool just a little bit to make sure that the heat reactive adhesive has a chance to really hold on there. Okay, now I'm going to take off the tape and we're going to go ahead and see how this looks. Oh, look at that. Those butterflies are gorgeous. And then this piece I can save and use it for the reverse later on. So since we have our Glimmer system out, I might as well do something with the sentiments. So I've already placed my sentiments from that BetterPress plate down onto a piece of cardstock, and I've got them taped in place. What I'm going to do here is what we call the hinge method. So I'm going to fold these up and pull them back just a little bit. And the reason I pull them back some is I have accidentally not had foil on the ends where I need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my foil right up against where that edge of that tape is, and then we're going to pull our plates down. I like having a magnet handy. That makes it easier to pick everything up because my nails don't always want to go under it. I'm doing that with both of these sentiments, and both of those are from the Glimmer, from the BetterPress. And you can see we've got excess foil. We don't need really all that much. So I am gonna trim off the excess, mostly so that I don't get excess foil on my plates, on these guys, because I do have foil on there. So now we can place this down onto our hot surface, plates down, again, shiny side facing away from the card, shiny side facing up, facing down towards the heat. We're going to place that on there, put our plates back on, and hit the timer button. Okay, let's run this through and take a look at our sentiments. So these are hot, so I am using my magnet to pull away the sentiment because, yeah, I don't want to burn myself. Oh, but look, the sentiments just turned out perfect. So now we're just going to start die cutting out the rest of our pieces. Again, I'm using the Magnetic Magic Mat to help my dies stay in place. One thing you want to be careful with is not to shift any of them when you're putting your plate in. So I tend to put it under the lip and then press down just to make sure, because I've done that way too many times. And there we go. And I just noticed that these all have like rounded edges. That's kind of cool. Next, I'm going to do the same thing with my butterflies. So I've got those down, and we're going to die cut those out just like we did before. Just put our piece right over the top. And that magnet definitely helps to hold it in place for you. And again, we're going to place the end to end and press down. And now we're going to go ahead and die cut those out. Yeah, that's still good. Okay. I wanted to make sure my butterfly overlay was perfect. And isn't that lovely? This is pretty by itself, but let's take a look at it with that background. Look at that. I think this turned out absolutely perfect. The vellum just softens up the blending just enough so you really can't tell. It just looks so pretty. So I'm going to be using probably just one of these on my card today. Let me go ahead and grab out the rest of the things so we can start adding our light. So I used the BetterPress and the Splatters BetterPress plates to go ahead and get the rest of the background done and the scalloped and stitch edges ovals, and I think this is so cool. Anyway, let's take a look at the light. So this is the light that I'm going to be using. This is the One Light. It's basically a mini flat flashlight. Okay, we've got the LED light over here, we've got the button here, and then I've got my magnet. You want the magnet to be flat side up, the flat side that says plus. We've got a plus mark. And then on the mechanism itself, it also has a plus. So the plus needs to touch the plus. Just slide that in. I'm going to block the light a little bit because we're going to test it, because I always recommend test, test, test. I'm going to press the button. And the light does come on. It's perfect. So what I need to decide now is which butterfly am I going to use? I kind of have an idea already, but I could go a different way. And what's it going to look like with the light behind it? So I've got my cardstock and vellum, and then if I put the light on behind, oh, I may switch my mind. I was thinking about doing the other one, but this looks fabulous. I think that looks cool. So we could do this one as well. And I kind of want that if we're going to have the light be towards the base of the body. And that looks really cool too. Okay, but where am I going to put the mechanism? It's not really going to fit behind our butterflies. I don't really want you touching the foil, right? So we're going to have to put a hole in this. Okay, so I need to figure out where do I want to position. Let's put our light down and see what I want to do. And I'm doing it with the light. There's another option. I've got some templates that you could use for helping with position. That's basically exact same thing as, let me turn it around, as the light, same shape, same size, the whole bit, with hole width where you can place holes for each of the button and the light. I've got those, and there's a link down below for you guys. But I want to do it with the light so I can see. I audition everything, but I want to see what it's going to look like. Okay, is that where I want it? Or do I want it a little bit off to the side? I think I want it a little bit high. So I'm going to take a pencil. And I'm just going to mark approximately where that light is supposed to be. Okay, and then I'm also going to hold my pencil here, and right here's where I want my button. Okay, because I also have to stamp that. So now I'm going to take out another stamp set. This is a stamp and die set from Pearblossom Press. And there's actually a couple of versions. If you've got the older version, that's going to work perfect for this. They have mostly the same stamps and dies in there. Only difference is she added the blow for the new candlelight that came out last year. So the ones I'm going to use is I'm going to use the press here, and I'm going to use the circle die that's in the back. And we're going to be doing that on these. So that means I need to go ahead and adhere them together so that we have our mat in the right place. Just going to use my Sweet Petunia glue press for that. And so we have our BetterPress paper, and we have a nice pretty mat that matches. And let's grab out our die cutting machine one more time to get that circle hole done. What that circle is going to do is it's going to let more light come through where I want it. So in this die set, there's actually several little dies. There are different teardrop shapes that are candle flames. There's also got this other one that can act as a door. But that one, I don't know if I'm going to use it today. I am going to use this guy, and we're going to place it right about where our circle, where our little dot is that we added. And I'm not bothering to use the magnetic side of my mat this time because it's not really needed. I typically use the magnetic side when I need to make sure that I get my stamps and dies, my images lined up perfect. Okay, so now we have that. So I'm going to do what I do every time. I always test everything multiple times. So let's put a little bit of adhesive on the back of this. I'm just going to use a tape runner for a minute, and that is just going to help me kind of guess if it's going to be in the right spot. I need the light to be there, And I want the button to be right about up here. And I am going to remove this again, but I want to test and make sure that everything is still working the way I expect. So that's going to go there. And then we'll have our butterfly up here. And then we can press the button. And I think I will shift my butterfly up a little bit more. But look. That is just gorgeous. Love it. Okay, so I do have everything positioned right. Now I'm just going to add a press here button right around where I got that little pencil mark. I've got the panel positioned in my MISTI to make sure that if I need to double stamp, which happens, I've got it right in place, and it is a wonderful state. It saves my cards. And I'm going to use some anti-static powder just to be on the safe side, because I'm going to do a little bit of embossing. Now, the embossing that I do, I typically use VersaFine Clear and Clear embossing powder. So that's what I'm going to use today. Ooh, I need the stamp. That would help. So let me grab the little press here stamp. Well loved. And I'm going to do kind of at an angle. There we go. Pick that up with my lid, and let's go ahead and stamp that down. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more. It looks fine, but I kind of want it to be a little bit darker. A lot of times I use white ink or colored ink just so that it's not as obvious that I've got a button there. This time though, because I've got so much going on in that upper corner, I do want to make sure it is seen. So let's go ahead and emboss this. Got my panel, got my embossing powder. This is Wow Clear Gloss. Super fine. And then we're just going to hit that with the heat gun. So I'm going to adhere this to the back of my card using some double-sided adhesive. I had forgotten I had this in my stash. This is some red line tape. Usually it's really, really strong. Haven't used it in a couple years, so I don't really know. So I'm going to try that one out today. I typically just use whatever double-sided adhesive that I've got in my stash, and they are all pretty strong. For the most part, I haven't had things falling apart, so that's good. Let's go ahead and take off the release paper, which is one reason why I don't like ones with plastic, but that's okay. And now I need to position my button under where it says press here. So that is here, and then the light needs to go in the center of that hole. Let me grab my tweezers for an extra hand so I can try to make sure it's positioned just where I want it. Okay, perfect. So now when I press the button, and I press here, that lights up. Okay, so next what I'm going to do, I'm going to adhere this piece down onto my card. And for that, I'm going to use some liquid adhesive. And that's because I want to have a little bit of wiggle room to move it around as I decide exactly where it's supposed to go. So pressing the button. And I say I want it right about, let's go with right there. Okay. And then when we put our, there we go. I think that is going to be lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to adhere this down. Now, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to put some adhesive, some glue behind the foil marks so that it's not visible. Mostly here in the center and then a little bit on the wings. Don't want it to be too, I want it to be a little bit loose, if that makes sense. I don't really want it to be on there too tight. I want them to be kind of seem like they're floating a little bit so they can lift up a little bit on the ends. Okay, I'm going to leave that and I'm going to put it under an acrylic block for a second to let that hold, because sometimes it takes a little bit for vellum to adhere. Okay, I think I do want to add the door. So what I need to determine is where exactly this is on this card, right? I think I had a kind of a cool idea. Don't know if it's going to work, guys. So don't try this at home until we find out if it works or not. I want to put a door, so it's going to allow for this to open, okay? And I want to make sure that this is in the right spot. So I'm grabbing out some light gray ink. This is some Pebble from Catherine Pooler. And I'm just going to ink my mechanism a little bit, especially around the edges. I can wipe this back off because it's plastic. And it's on the back, so it's not going to hurt anything, right? We're not going to be able to see it. So, when I hold this and put it in place, let's make sure we've got it pretty much centered. Oh, I could use my T ruler from Pearblossom Press also. We're going to use that because this is... that's an inch from the side, right? So that means we would have a 1/2 inch border all the way around. I didn't mean to pick the right size, but it looks like I did. This has a jig on there. So one side is for 3/8, the other is for 1/2. So if I slide this in right there, that's going to give me a 1/2 inch. So that when I place this, it's going to be in pretty much correct positioning. So let's just see. If I put it down here, looks like it's centered. I'm going to go for it. So I'm kind of stamping with the mechanism, okay? And that tells me where I can place, where the mechanism is going to be when I put it down, okay? So now I'm going to cut a window around that. Also want to make sure that I don't go too far out. So I'm going to do it again. Let me get my T ruler back out. Should have done this the first time. Okay, so right about there, but now I can put a little pencil mark right here so I know how far not to go because I don't want that window to be showing on the outside. So I'm going to just place it right about there. We're going to tape that down with some low tack tape. This is the Best Ever Craft tape from Spellbinders. And the only time someone's going to even see that mark is if they do need to change the battery. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open my card back up and we're going to run that through our die cutting machine. So it's going to cut a window right there. So now they can open it on the inside and be able to change out the battery if needed. Now, if you wanted to make it look pretty, you could always, of course, color that up so that you don't see the gray anymore. I'm not really going to worry too much about it. I love that idea. Yay. I hadn't even thought about how to get that positioned in just the right spot, and I'm loving this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some additional tape. We want this to pop up. We don't want any saggy bits. So I'm going to use the world's best foam tape from Pearblossom Press. This stuff is fabulous. I absolutely love it. It is double thick. It is the perfect thickness for our mechanism. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the release paper comes off super easy and no need for me to use my pokey tool, right? And it's the best part is it is repositionable for up to 30 minutes. So that means that if you put anything down in the wrong spot, which does sometimes happen, if you put it down in the wrong spot, you're covered because you can take that back off. Now, I do have to be careful not to put my tape down where that's going to be, right? So we're going to do a little bit of experimenting and I'm probably going to have to shift things and that is totally fine. First, we're going to put this down here. I do need a little bit across the top. Like I said, we don't want to have any kind of saggy bits. And the bottom half is pretty much fair game because we don't have the window there. So I'll put one more. And then we're going to see that if I put that one in place, is the window going to have any other tape there? Because that's the part that I don't like. Okay, again, I'm going to put this down. This is just to get an idea of where it's supposed to go. This is going to go right about there. If I hold it in place, it actually looks like it's a little high. That's okay. I can always add my sentiment low. That is totally fine. So we're going to open it up and we're going to see we don't have any tape anywhere around it. Perfect. Now I can take my release paper off and adhere that down. So easy to remove that tape. I'm going to put that back in place so I got it about the right spot. There we go. And then when we open it up, we have access to our battery. Fabulous. Now all I need to do is add the sentiments. I think I'm going to just use Sending Love. I think this is so pretty and it goes for lots of different occasions. I'm also using my T-square from Pearblossom Press. The measurements on here, let me show over here. The measurements over on here have 0 in the center. So this side is for if you're going 4 1/4. This side is if you're going 5 1/2, and then they have pink marks at the spots that are about 1/3 apart, because a lot of times we do things in thirds, right? I'm going to use the short end, which is the 4 1/4. Place that on there, lining it up with the edge of my cardstock and just coming down a little bit. And then I'm going to center the love right in the center there. It does need to come down a bit more because I want to leave room for another sentiment on top. So it's going to go right about there. And then we can add Sending right above it. I think that is going to be so super sweet. And the combination of the two sentiments will be centered on the card. I do like to do things a little offset, but you know what? I think this still looks really, really pretty. There we go. And I think this does need a little bit more though. What do you think, guys? I think I need to do one more thing. So I think that it needs a little bit more. So I'm going to add a little bit of embellishment. Just a couple little sticky embellishments. Now I have issues with it for some reason. I don't really know why. They never want to stick with just the adhesive that's on there. If you have that problem, it is totally fine. You can always add a little glue to your card and have that be behind it. So we're going to add a few of these little blue dots. That's going to go right well with the blue colors that are on our card already. They match pretty nicely. I'm very happy with that. And I'm going to add a couple more up at the top, and that's going to kind of give us a flow. And there we go. Now our card is done. I think this turned out so super cute. And that light is just a little bit extra for our card. Be sure to check out the other videos on the Pearblossom Press channel because there are a lot more light up card inspiration videos out there for you to see. And I have quite a few over on my channel at Debbie J's Crafting Corner. So come check them out over there as well. You guys have a wonderful day and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.